Madden to NBA. In 2001, NBA stars begin appearing on video game covers designed in the style of Madden NFL, a franchise already carrying a notorious reputation for the so-called cover jinx. Within a year, Vince Carter, then averaging over 24 points per game and fresh off his iconic 2000 dunk contest win, suffers a knee injury that sidelines him for extended stretches of the 2002 season. The sequence feels too close to the NFL pattern, where football players routinely saw declines in performance or major injuries after gracing the cover. Because Carter had just led Toronto to its first playoff series win in 2001, the injury undercuts momentum at the exact moment when expectations peaked. Allen Iverson, the 2001 league MVP who appears on the cover of NBA 2K, experiences his own breakdown in this window, spraining ankles repeatedly and missing 34 games across the 2001-02 season. Media outlets quickly latch onto these overlapping examples and label them an NBA-specific cover jinx, cementing the narrative that the curse had migrated from football into basketball. Fans amplify the superstition because it fits a pattern of stars declining immediately after being elevated into marketing spotlight. This feedback loop deepens paranoia among players, as appearing on the cover now seems to carry genuine career risk. The fixation on the jinx ensures that injuries and bad luck are explained less by chance and more by myth, setting the foundation for curses to become part of NBA culture. Clippers. From 1970 through 2010, the Clippers record a winning percentage below .400, the lowest mark of any major professional franchise over that 40-year stretch. Their origin story begins in futility when a 1985 coin flip, held to determine draft order, sends James Worthy to the Lakers instead of the Clippers. Worthy becomes a 7-time All-Star and key figure in 3 championships, while the Clippers cycle through lottery picks without building a stable core. Because of this missed opportunity, the narrative of organizational bad luck cements itself before the franchise ever wins a playoff series. The 2000s illustrate the same cycle in sharper detail. Lamar Odom, one of the brightest prospects from the 1999 draft, is suspended in 2001 for violating league drug policy, and the roster unravels after a brief surge toward relevance. In 2009, the franchise selects Blake Griffin with the first overall pick, only for him to break his kneecap before playing a single regular season game. Each setback reinforces the perception that progress cannot last in a Clippers uniform. By the time the Donald Sterling scandal erupts in 2014, the idea of a cursed franchise feels locked in. Sterling's lifetime ban, prompted by racist remarks captured on tape, ensures that the Team OS struggles are not framed as random misfortune, but as systemic dysfunction tied to leadership. The Clippers' inability to convert talent into championships, combined with scandals and injuries, makes them the league's most cited example of a curse. That reputation carries forward into the Chris Paul and Lob City era, where playoff collapses will reinforce the stigma. Knicks. The New York Knicks last win an NBA championship in 1973, and the ensuing drought stretches more than 5 decades, the longest for any major market team. Their story of cursed fortune gains traction in 1985 during the first draft lottery, when Commissioner David Stern opens the envelope that delivers Georgetown center Patrick Ewing to New York. Almost immediately, rumors spread that the envelope had been frozen to guarantee the Knicks a franchise player, an accusation the league denies but never fully shakes. Because of this controversy, every Knicks setback afterward is framed less as chance and more as fate catching up. Ewing leads New York to the 1994 NBA Finals, where the Knicks push Houston to a decisive Game 7. Ewing shoots 7 for 17 and scores only 17 points, and the team falls 90-84 in a series where John Starks also shoots 2 for 18 in the final game. 5 years later, as an 8th seed that shocks the East by reaching the finals, the Knicks are swept by San Antonio, erasing one of the most improbable runs in playoff history. Each loss cements the perception that even strong rosters cannot close the gap when opportunity arrives. The 2000s and 2010s bring further examples, especially in the lottery era. New York positions itself for Zion Williamson in 2019, only to watch New Orleans win the top pick and Memphis slide to second, leaving the Knicks with R.J. Barrett at third. Fans tally these moments alongside decades of free agent disappointments, coaching churn, an underperformance to argue that the franchise carries a curse. That narrative persists even as Madison Square Garden remains full every night, because the failures repeat with enough consistency to feel systemic. The Knicks' inability to reverse the drought creates a sharp contrast with the rival Celtics and Lakers, setting up comparisons that fuel the sense of a hex. Nets. The New Jersey Nets entered the NBA in 1976 through the ABA-NBA merger, but their $4.8 million entry fee cripples the franchise's finances before a single game is played. To cover the cost, ownership sells Julius Erving, the ABA's most marketable star and reigning MVP, to Philadelphia. Erving goes on to win the 1983 championship with the 76ers, while the Nets lose both their identity and momentum in the transition to the larger league. Because of this shortfall, the franchise never establishes stability in its first decade of NBA competition. A generation later, the Nets finally break through with consecutive finals appearances in 2002 and 2003, behind Jason Kidd's playmaking, but both series end in sweeps. They lose 4-0 to the Lakers in 2002 and then 4-2 to the Spurs in 2003, leaving the team with an 0-8 combined finals record. Those defeats, despite reaching the league's biggest stage, reinforce the narrative that the franchise cannot convert opportunity into results. The losses highlight how fleeting success can be without long-term structural backing. The cycle repeats with devastating clarity in 2013 when the Nets trade multiple first-round picks to Boston for aging veterans Paul Pierce and Kevin Garnett. Within 3 years, Pierce has left and Garnett has retired, while Boston uses those draft assets to select Jason Tatum in 2017 and Jaylen Brown in 2016. Those two become the foundation of a championship-caliber Celtics team, while the Nets spend the 2016-2018 stretch trapped at the bottom of the standings with no draft capital. Because of this reversal, the Nets become a textbook example of a cursed franchise that repeatedly hands away its best chance at success. That reputation lingers even after high-profile acquisitions like Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, who face their own collapses in Brooklyn. Sonics Thunder Seattle's run peaks in 1996, when the Supersonics win 64 games but run into Michael Jordan's 72-10 Bulls in the finals. They steal 2 late games at home but drop the series 4-2, reinforcing the sense that even their best version cannot overcome Chicago's dynasty. Over the next decade, attendance dips and arena negotiations stall, and by 2008 the franchise relocates to Oklahoma City under Clay Bennett's ownership. Seattle loses a team with 41 years of history, including Gary Payton's defensive awards and Shawn Kemp's All-Star prime. For locals, the relocation feels like a punishment for off-court politics rather than results. In Oklahoma City, the draft delivers a generational haul: Kevin Durant in 2007, Russell Westbrook in 2008, James Harden in 2009. By 2012, that trio carries the Thunder to the finals, where they lose 4-1 to LeBron James and the Miami Heat. Within months, Harden is traded to Houston for Kevin Martin and draft picks, a cost-cutting decision that eliminates their strongest offensive core. Durant leaves in 2016 for Golden State, Westbrook departs in 2019, and the franchise sits with memories of almost but never. The through line is simple. Whether in Seattle or Oklahoma City, the talent is there, but the finish never arrives. The Harden trade cements the curse of what if, and the city of Seattle still waits for basketball's return. Blazers, Portland's draft history locks in its reputation for cursed decisions as early as 1984, when the franchise selects 7'1" Kentucky center Sam Bowie second overall, passing on Michael Jordan. The logic tracks at the time because they already employ Clyde Drexler at shooting guard and want size to anchor the front court. But Bowie's stress fractures limit him to just 76 games in his first 2 seasons, while Jordan averages 28.2 points as a rookie in Chicago. The optics of that choice continue to shadow the organization for decades. Even when other picks succeed, Bowie remains the reference point. The team does reach the finals twice during that era, losing 4-1 to the Detroit Pistons in 1990 after blowing a double-digit lead in Game 2. Earlier, the 1977 championship led by Bill Walton had seemed like the start of a dynasty, but Walton's chronic foot injuries limit him to just 58 games across his final 3 Portland seasons, ending the run before it can establish continuity. The draft brings another chance in 2007, when Portland selects Greg Oden first overall over Kevin Durant. betting on a 7-foot center with dominant college numbers. Oden undergoes microfracture surgery before his rookie season and manages just 82 career games for the Blazers due to recurring knee injuries. Durant, meanwhile, becomes league MVP in 2014 and wins 2 Finals MVPs with Golden State. Each era produces talent and opportunity, but injuries and choices converge to block long-term success. The Bowie and Oden picks tie directly into the franchise's identity, so the next beat shifts to another city where draft day regret defines the narrative. Kings Sacramento reaches its highest peak in 2002, finishing with 61 wins, the best record in the league, and pushing the Western Conference Finals to a decisive 6th game. That night, the Lakers attempt 27 free throws in the 4th quarter alone, while the Kings finish 16 for 30 from the line across the game. The disparity swings momentum, forcing overtime, where Los Angeles escapes with a 106-102 victory. The series extends to Game 7, but the Kings shoot 2 for 20 from 3 and lose 112-106 at home. The officiating in Game 6 remains one of the most scrutinized nights in league history. The collapse proves costly because the Kings never return to that level of contention. They lose in the second round in 2003, fall in the first round in 2004, and by 2006 record their last playoff appearance of the era. The roster that once featured Chris Webber, Peja Stojakovic, and Vlade Divac breaks apart through trades and injuries. Meanwhile, the Maloof brothers' ownership generates instability, with frequent coaching changes and failed arena negotiations weakening long-term continuity. Attendance declines and financial losses accumulate, eroding the franchise's ability to rebuild effectively. By 2006, Sacramento begins what becomes the NBA's longest active playoff drought, extending 16 full seasons through 2022 before ending at last. Each year of missed opportunity deepens the shadow of that 2002 officiating controversy, because fans see it as the moment the franchise's trajectory changes. Without that loss, the Kings could plausibly have reached their first finals in the Sacramento era. Instead, ownership turmoil and poor management compound the on-court collapse. The curse of missed opportunity in Sacramento bridges into other franchises where a single postseason failure defines decades of perception. Cavaliers. Pre-LeBron Cleveland enters the league in 1970 and quickly develops a reputation for futility, posting a cumulative winning percentage below .450 across its first 3 decades. By 1989, the franchise appears ready to turn the corner with a 57-win season, anchored by guard Mark Price and center Brad Daugherty. That year ends with one of the league's defining images, when Michael Jordan hits a baseline jumper over Craig Alo to eliminate the Cavaliers in a decisive first-round Game 5. The 101-100 loss erases what had been projected as Cleveland's deepest postseason run to date. That single moment comes to be remembered simply as the shot. The Cavs regroup and return to the Eastern Conference Finals in 1992, but again fall to Jordan's Bulls, this time in 6 games. The roster never fully recovers because recurring injuries to Daugherty and Larry Nance undercut frontcourt production. Meanwhile, the team's draft record proves damaging, with top selections like Chris Miam in 2000 and Dajuan Wagner in 2002 failing to develop into long-term starters. Each misstep reinforces a cycle where the team cannot build a sustainable core, and losses accumulate at a steady rate. By 2002, Cleveland ranks last in league attendance, averaging fewer than 12,000 fans per home game in a 20,562-seat arena. The combination of poor draft returns, recurring postseason collapses, and declining fan interest locks the franchise into its lowest point since joining the NBA. The front office requires a transformational player not only to restore competitiveness, but also to stabilize revenues and public confidence. That opportunity arrives with the 2003 draft lottery, setting up the entry of LeBron James and the next chapter of Cavaliers history, LeBron curse narrative. LeBron James enters the league in 2003 as the first overall pick and immediately carries the weight of expectations for both a franchise and an entire region. His rapid ascent peaks in 2007 when, at age 22, he leads Cleveland to the NBA Finals, only for the Spurs to sweep the Cavaliers in 4 games with an average margin of 6.0 points. The loss reinforces doubts about whether James can elevate a limited roster to championship level against seasoned opponents. Because of Cleveland's lack of secondary scoring, the narrative of individual greatness clashing with systemic shortcomings begins to take shape. That early sweep becomes the foundation for talk of a LeBron curse. In 2010, his nationally televised free agency announcement, known simply as The Decision, draws 9.95 million viewers but sparks widespread backlash as Cleveland fans burn jerseys and ownership issues public denunciations. The choice delivers James to Miami, yet his first season there ends in a stunning collapse. A 4-2 finals loss to Dallas in 2011, despite the Heat holding a 2-1 series lead. The following years bring both redemption and new questions, as Miami claims 2 championships but falls decisively in 2014 to San Antonio, losing the finals 4-1 with a 14-point average margin. Because setbacks arrive in such high visibility stages, they reinforce the notion that James cannot escape pivotal failures. That perception only shifts in 2016, when he leads Cleveland back from a 3-1 deficit in the finals against Golden State, overturning a record-setting 73-9 team. The 7-game series delivers Cleveland its first NBA championship and ends a 52-year citywide title drought. By securing a triple-double in Game 7 and blocking Andre Iguodala's late layup, James reverses years of accumulated doubt in one defining performance. The Cavaliers' breakthrough closes the chapter on the so-called curse, while setting the conditions for new narratives around dynasties, legacies, and the sustainability of superteams. Warriors before dynasty Golden State secures the 1975 NBA championship with a 4-game sweep of Washington. Yet the title becomes an outlier rather than the foundation of a dynasty. Over the next 40 years, the franchise cycles through coaches, owners, and draft misses while recording one of the lowest win percentages among major market teams. The drought persists in part because management repeatedly parts with cornerstone players before they can reach peak production. By the mid-1990s, this instability defines the Warriors' reputation as a franchise without sustained direction. For a team based in the Bay Area, the contrast between market size and competitive return is striking. The defining rupture comes in 1994 when Chris Webber, Rookie of the Year at 17.5 points and 9.1 rebounds, clashes with coach Don Nelson and demands a trade. Golden State moves him to Washington after a single season, a decision that removes their most promising young star since Rick Barry. A decade later, the same pattern repeats when Baron Davis leads an improbable 2007 upset of 67-win Dallas, only for injuries and roster turnover to prevent follow-up success. Meanwhile, the Warriors continue missing the postseason in 18 out of 19 years between 1995 and 2013, underscoring systemic failure. Even the drafting of Stephen Curry in 2009 does not immediately alter perception, as recurring ankle injuries limit him to 26 games in 2011 and raise long-term durability concerns. Because of this uncertainty, Golden State signs him to a 4-year, $44 million extension in 2012, a contract widely viewed as risky. That gamble later becomes one of the most team-friendly deals in league history, creating the financial flexibility to build a dynasty. The Warriors' long drought, however, ensures that when the turnaround finally arrives, it stands in sharper relief against decades of missteps. Timberwolves. The Minnesota Timberwolves enter the NBA in 1989 and struggle to find footing, failing to reach the playoffs until 1997 under coach Bill Musselman, and with rookie Kevin Garnett already averaging 10.4 points per game. The team's early instability hinders fan engagement and on-court consistency, leaving the franchise without a blueprint for long-term success. By 2000, front office errors amplify the curse narrative when the league voids Joe Smith's illegal contract, forcing the Timberwolves to forfeit 5 first-round draft picks. That loss deprives Minnesota of foundational talent that could have supported Garnett's rise into MVP-level performance. The combination of stalled drafts and inconsistent coaching fuels a growing perception of organizational misfortune. In 2004, the Timberwolves reached the Western Conference Finals with Garnett averaging 24.2 points and 13.9 rebounds, only to fall 4-2 to the Los Angeles Lakers, led by Kobe Bryant and Shaquille O'Neal. Despite a top-heavy roster, Supporting cast deficiencies and untimely injuries prevent the franchise from capitalizing on the opportunity. Management continues to misstep, trading Garnett to Boston in 2007 in exchange for a package that fails to produce a competitive successor. The departure dismantles the Team AS core and accelerates a collapse that extends well into the next decade. The 2009 draft provides another cautionary note. Minnesota passes on Stephen Curry twice, selecting Ricky Rubio and Johnny Flynn instead. Curry's subsequent MVP and 2 championships underscore the missed opportunity and deepen the narrative of chronic misfortune. Because the Timberwolves consistently falter in talent evaluation and timing, each playoff appearance feels like an exception rather than the rule. The franchise's pattern of near success followed by structural setbacks cements its reputation as one of the league's most ill-fated teams. Suns. Phoenix reaches the 1976 NBA Finals after averaging 112.4 points per game in the postseason, but loses Game 5 in triple overtime to Boston, 128-126, setting an early tone of near misses for the franchise. Despite strong team chemistry and playoff experience, the Suns fail to convert high-effort performances into championships, embedding a reputation for falling just short. Management continues to build around high-usage scorers, yet gaps in depth and experience prevent sustained success. Fans and analysts note a pattern of heartbreak whenever the team reaches the league's highest stage. In 1993, the Suns returned to the finals with Charles Barkley, the league MVP at 25.6 points and 11.5 rebounds per game, facing Michael Jordan's Bulls. Jordan dominates the series, averaging 41 points per game, and Phoenix loses 4-2 despite Barkley's 27-point effort in Game 6. The failure reinforces the perception that even elite individual performances cannot overcome championship obstacles in Phoenix, cementing the narrative of the Suns' curse. Meanwhile, disciplinary issues continue to undermine opportunities, as seen in 2007 when Amare Stoudemire and Boris Diaw faced suspensions during the Spurs series, contributing to a 4-0 sweep. The curse persists into the modern era, exemplified by the 2021 Finals, where the Suns lead the Bucks 2-0 before losing the series 4-2, despite Chris Paul averaging 21.8 points and 8.2 assists per game. Injuries and inconsistent defense exacerbate failures, emphasizing recurring structural weaknesses across decades. Because of these repeated playoff collapses, Phoenix becomes a textbook example of a franchise capable of elite performance, yet repeatedly denied ultimate success, leaving the Suns' curse firmly embedded in league lore. Pacers Indiana joins the NBA in 1976 following the ABA-NBA merger, yet the franchise has never captured a championship, despite multiple deep playoff runs. The Reggie Miller era highlights both excellence and heartbreak, culminating in the 2000 Finals, where the Pacers lose 4-2 to the Lakers, despite Miller averaging 25.6 points per game in the series. Consistent regular season success cannot translate to ultimate victory, creating a narrative of near misses that haunts the organization. Fans note the irony of one of the league's most clutch shooters repeatedly falling short on the biggest stage. Discipline and off-court incidents exacerbate the curse, most notably the 2004 Malice at the Palace, when a brawl with Pistons fans leads to suspensions for Ron Artest and Jermaine O'Neal, dismantling a contender-caliber team. The fallout not only impacts the standings, but tarnishes the franchise's reputation, causing a ripple effect that stalls future roster construction. Indiana struggles to maintain continuity, and missed opportunities solidify a perception that bad luck and internal volatility define the Pacers' history. In 2014, the curse manifests again when Paul George suffers a compound leg fracture during a Team USA scrimmage, wiping out the season and eliminating any chance of contending around emerging stars. Injuries and suspensions become recurrent obstacles, reinforcing the idea that no matter talent or timing, the Pacers' window for a championship remains elusive. Because of these compounding failures, from Miller to George, Indiana exemplifies a franchise capable of excellence yet consistently denied ultimate success, embedding the Pacers' curse into NBA lore. Bulls post-Jordan. After Michael Jordan retires in 1998, the Chicago Bulls collapse into a historic downturn. posting the worst 5-year record in the NBA from 1999 to 2004, including a 1765 season in 2003. Management missteps compound the decline, most notably the 2001 trade of Elton Brand for the draft rights to Tyson Chandler, which backfires as Chandler struggles to develop into a franchise cornerstone. The roster lacks cohesion and star power, leaving the team incapable of returning to the finals despite intermittent playoff appearances. Fans and analysts begin to frame the period as a cautionary tale of post-superstar fragility. The franchise begins rebuilding in 2008 with the selection of Derrick Rose first overall, a 6'3" point guard from Memphis who immediately transforms the team. Rose averages 25 points and 7.7 assists per game, becoming the youngest MVP in league history at age 22 during the 2010-11 season. Optimism returns to Chicago, but structural fragility remains because the supporting cast is uneven and management fails to supplement talent consistently. Disaster strikes in the 2012 playoffs when Rose tears his ACL against the Philadelphia 76ers, forcing him to miss the entire 2012-13 season. The injury halts momentum, derails championship aspirations, and effectively ensures that the Bulls never return to the finals after 1998. Because of mismanaged trades, fleeting rebuilds, and catastrophic injuries, Chicago's post-Jordan era becomes a textbook example of a once-dominant franchise cursed by timing, circumstance, and misfortune. 76ers. The Philadelphia 76ers win their last championship in 1983, led by Moses Malone's 27.1 points and 15.3 rebounds per game, but post-title, the franchise enters a prolonged period of underachievement. From 1984 onward, the team fails to return to the finals for over 3 decades, averaging just 38 wins per season, and cycling through coaches and front office regimes without establishing sustained success. Management miscalculations compound the decline, such as the 1997 draft choice of Larry Hughes over Dirk Nowitzki, a decision that leaves the team lacking a transcendent star for the next generation. Fans grow accustomed to fleeting playoff appearances and early exits rather than championship contention. In 2001, Allen Iverson carries the team to the finals, averaging 31.1 points, and recording 48 in Game 1 against the Lakers. Yet Philadelphia falls 4-1, exposed by depth issues and mismatched interior defense. The loss reinforces the narrative that the franchise is cursed in high-stakes moments, as peak performances fail to translate into ultimate victories. Meanwhile, the roster's inconsistency and roster turnover prevent the team from building long-term championship chemistry. They trust the process. Era begins in 2013 with the selection of Joel Embiid and subsequent pairing with Ben Simmons, promising a modern rebuild around 2 stars with complementary skills. Injuries to Embiid and Simmons, along with Simmons' erratic shooting in critical playoff moments, stall the team's ascension and perpetuate the franchise's reputation for near misses. Because management repeatedly gambles on potential overstability, Philadelphia remains a franchise with elite talent, yet haunted by a legacy of playoff heartbreak and strategic misfires. Rockets. The Houston Rockets' Twin Towers era collapses in 1986 when Ralph Sampson, the 7'4" center averaging 23.4 points and 11.2 rebounds per game, suffers a torn tendon that sidelines him for the season. This injury abruptly ends what could have been a decade-long championship run with Hakeem Olajuwon, forcing the team to adjust strategy around a single superstar. Meanwhile, the roster struggles to maintain consistent playoff success, highlighting how injuries derail even the most promising dynasties. In 1993, Vernon Maxwell's on-court meltdown during a critical series leads to a $20,000 fine and internal discord, demonstrating how behavioral volatility contributes to a pattern of missed opportunities. The Rockets secure a title in 1995 behind Olajuwon's 27.9 rebound finals averages, but management fails to build a dynasty, leaving the team unable to capitalize on peak performance years. Later, in 2018, the Harden-led squad misses 27 consecutive three-pointers in a Western Conference Finals loss to the Warriors, a statistical anomaly that underscores recurring postseason frustration. James Harden's era briefly promises sustained success, yet the 20-20 bubble campaign ends in disappointment despite leading the league in scoring at 34.3 points per game. continuing the franchise's pattern of collapsing at pivotal moments. Strategic trades and front office gambles fail to convert talent into deep playoff runs, mirroring previous eras plagued by injury and inconsistency. The Rockets' history shows a recurring narrative where high-level talent is repeatedly undermined by circumstance, injury, and critical lapses in execution, leaving the franchise chasing fleeting moments of glory rather than prolonged dominance. Jazz. The Utah Jazz reached consecutive finals in 1997 and 1998, but both series end in heartbreak against Michael Jordan's Bulls. In Game 5 of 1997, Jordan scores 38 points despite the flu, pushing the series to a decisive Game 6 where Utah falls 90-88. The following year, Game 6 sees Jordan hit the series-clinching jumper over Brian Russell, cementing a narrative of near misses for Stockton and Malone, who retire as one of the league's most prolific duos without an NBA title. These losses establish a pattern where the franchise peaks at the highest level but cannot close the final gap. Deron Williams arrives in 2007 as a dynamic point guard, averaging 21.3 points and 10.4 assists in the playoffs, yet the Jazz fall 4-1 in the Western Conference Finals to the Spurs. Injuries and defensive lapses prevent the team from building a sustainable championship run, demonstrating how high talent alone does not overcome structural weaknesses. Utah continues to chase postseason success with Donovan Mitchell, who suffers an ankle injury in 2021 after the Jazz blow a 2-0 series lead against the Clippers, repeating the pattern of ill-timed setbacks. Despite assembling star talent and maintaining consistent playoff appearances, the Jazz remain emblematic of a franchise cursed by pivotal moments and injuries at critical stages. Stockton and Malone's legacy contrasts sharply with their lack of rings, and later generations inherit a similar fate, unable to translate regular season dominance into ultimate victory. The team's history of near championships sets the stage for ongoing scrutiny and hope, with each emerging superstar, keeping the narrative of the Utah Jazz as persistent contenders, yet unfulfilled aspirants. Magic. The Orlando Magic reached the 1995 Finals as a young powerhouse led by Shaquille O'Neal and Penny Hardaway, but Game 1 against the Houston Rockets turns catastrophic when Nick Anderson misses 4 consecutive free throws in the closing minutes. The lapse contributes to a 120-118 overtime defeat, setting the tone for a series sweep by Houston, 4-0. The psychological impact lingers as Orlando struggles to regain composure, highlighting how a single high-pressure moment can derail a championship opportunity. Shaq departs in 1996 free agency, stripping the franchise of its centerpiece and forcing a rebuild around Hardaway and new acquisitions. Yet the team never reaches another finals in that era. In the Dwight Howard era, the Magic returned to the finals in 2009, but face a 4-1 loss to the Lakers, with Howard averaging 21.5 points and 14.2 rebounds, yet failing to dominate offensively against Los Angeles defense. Howard's eventual departure in 2012 continues a pattern of top-tier talent, leaving before the franchise can establish sustained success, leaving the Magic to repeatedly reconstruct around new stars. Orlando's inability to convert talent into championships echoes the missed moments of the 1995 Finals, reinforcing a legacy of near misses and untapped potential. Across decades, the Magic remain emblematic of a team trapped between promise and disappointment, from Anderson's fateful free throws to Howard's departure. Key players rise to stardom but exit before legacy-defining success, and the franchise endures cycles of rebuilding rather than dynastic achievement. The narrative of Orlando's misfortunes establishes a precedent that links missed opportunities, high-stakes failures, and star departures, making each new roster iteration a test against history. Hawks. The Atlanta Hawks last win an NBA title in 1958 during the St. Louis era, and the franchise has yet to replicate that success after relocating to Atlanta. The 1994 trade of Dominique Wilkins shocks fans and removes the team's all-time leading scorer, creating a talent vacuum that contributes to inconsistent playoff performance. In 1999, the Hawks reach the Eastern Conference Finals but are swept 4-0 by the New York Knicks, demonstrating that even when the team assembles a competitive roster, it struggles against top-tier opponents. Attendance and fan morale fluctuate, and relocation rumors throughout the 2000s reinforce a perception of instability, undermining long-term planning and free agent retention. The 2014-2015 season brings hope with a 60-win campaign under coach Mike Budenholzer. Yet the Hawks are swept in the Eastern Conference Finals by the Cleveland Cavaliers, exposing limitations in star power and playoff execution. Key players perform efficiently during the regular season, but the team's defensive strategies and bench depth fail to withstand elite competition, maintaining a pattern of near misses rather than championships. Franchise decisions, coaching changes, and draft strategies reinforce a cycle where promising teams collapse at critical moments, echoing Wilkins's departure decades earlier. Over decades, the Hawks' history shows recurring setbacks, from iconic players leaving to playoff sweeps that prevent title runs. Strategic decisions and relocation speculation amplify instability, making it difficult to sustain success even with high-performing regular season rosters. The franchise's pattern of short-lived promise cements a narrative where achievements rarely translate into deep postseason victories, feeding into a broader perception of a long-standing curse. Bucks pre-Giannis. The Milwaukee Bucks last secure an NBA championship in 1971, and the franchise enters a prolonged period without a title despite sporadic playoff appearances. In 1974, the Bucks reach the finals, but lose Game 7 to the Boston Celtics, 102-87, exposing limitations in depth and experience against elite Eastern Conference teams. The late 1980s bring consecutive first-round sweeps, beginning in 1989, reinforcing a perception that the team struggles under postseason pressure even when regular season records are competitive. Management attempts to rebuild through drafts and trades, yet these moves often fail to translate into sustained success, keeping the Bucks in a cycle of playoff frustration and early exits. The 2001 Eastern Conference Finals see Milwaukee reach Game 7 against the Philadelphia 76ers, but fall 108-91, again highlighting a gap between regular season performance and championship-caliber execution. Star players perform individually, yet the roster lacks complementary depth and playoff adaptability, leaving the Bucks unable to capitalize on their opportunities. Ownership changes, coaching adjustments, and missed draft targets compound the team's inability to establish a consistent winning culture over decades. It is not until the arrival of Giannis Antetokounmpo that the Bucks break the championship drought in 2021, completing a rebuild around a generational talent capable of elevating the franchise past historical hurdles. Decades of near misses, Game 7 losses, and first-round sweeps define the Bucks' pre-Giannis era, forming a narrative of repeated disappointment that only ends with the emergence of a superstar capable of sustaining deep playoff runs. This pattern underscores the long-standing challenges Milwaukee faced before finally reclaiming a title after 50 years. Curse rap. Across the league, patterns of injuries, failed trades, and officiating controversies create a recurring narrative that transcends individual seasons, embedding droughts into team identities. Each franchise develops a cultural memory around repeated setbacks, and fans begin to interpret losses as part of an enduring curse rather than isolated misfortunes. Statistical records reinforce these perceptions because losing streaks, Game 7 collapses, and missed draft opportunities are documented and cited repeatedly in media and fan discussions. The persistence of these patterns ensures that even short-term failures become part of a long-term legend, with numbers sustaining the narrative far longer than any single championship run could. Teams like the Nets, Kings, and Suns see decades of near misses turn into folklore, and the repetition of misfortune frames each new season as a test of historical continuity rather than a fresh start. Meanwhile, star player injuries, such as Embiid's recurring setbacks and Simmons' shooting inconsistencies, feed the notion that curses are active forces shaping outcomes rather than random chance. Ultimately, the mythology of NBA curses keeps basketball history alive, because fans, analysts, and players themselves internalize the narrative, applying it to every trade, injury, and playoff game. It creates a lens through which every failed finals appearance or blown lead is contextualized, and even modern successes like Milwaukee's 2021 title or Cleveland's 2016 championship are viewed against a backdrop of long-standing adversity. These curses, real or perceived, become a structural element of league storytelling, extending the drama beyond the scoreboard and into the collective memory of the sport. If you enjoyed this, I'm going to be posting a lot here. I would greatly appreciate it if you could subscribe. Thanks for watching.